Wallace collection is a national museum situated in the heart of London. The museum houses an astonishing array of paintings, sculptures, porcelain and armour, all amassed by the first four Marquises of Hertford and Sir Richard Wallace. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to About Art. Today I thought I'd take you on a tour and show you 5 of my favourite paintings from the Wallace collection. If you're new here, my name is Tatiana and I deliver fast, fresh and accessible content on art history, and I'd love for you to give me a follow. Alright, without further ado, let's dive right in. Number 1, Perseus and Andromeda by Titian. If you're familiar with Greek and Roman mythology, you might recognise what's going on here.
Painted by the Venetian Renaissance artist Titian, this painting depicts the tale of Perseus and Andromeda from Ovid's Metamorphoses. Andromeda, the daughter of the Ethiopian king Cepheus and Queen Cassiopeia, is condemned to be sacrificed to a sea monster due to her mother's boastful claims about her unrivaled beauty. Here she is on the left. The soft tones of her delicate, pale flesh contrast sharply with the rough, jagged rocks to which she is chained. Her expression is one of fear, and her red cheeks suggest she may be crying. A near translucent piece of fabric cascades over her modesty. All it does is draw even more attention to Andromeda's nudity, thereby heightening her status as the vulnerable damsel in distress. Notice how her left arm seems to be reaching outwards towards Perseus, who we see to the right, as if seeking salvation. Perseus, having just defeated the Gorgon Medusa, comes across Andromeda and is overcome by her beauty. Titian depicts him suspended in midair, his pose dynamic and full of movement as he prepares to strike the sea monster Titus that looms from below and save the captive princess. His winged sandals, mirrored shield, and harpy sword, gifts from the gods, signal his divine assistance. A closer look reveals that Titian struggled quite a bit with the placement of Perseus' sword, but I think the end result is quite wonderful. Perseus looks as if he is about to nosedive into the monster's open mouth, yet at the same time the perspective makes him seem quite large and powerful. This juxtaposition creates a wonderful sense of peril, of urgency, and of tension that is heightened by the turbulent waves and the darkening sky that frames Perseus' limbs.
This painting embodies heroism, the struggle of good against evil, and one's noble quest for love and salvation. It is one of 6 Poesia paintings that Titian was commissioned to paint for Philip II of Spain, each exploring a different passage from Ovid's Metamorphoses. The paintings were also a sort of welcomed excuse to explore the female nude in visual form.
Here, the luminosity of Andromeda's skin makes her seem like a marble statue. Philip II would have loved it.
As the story goes, Perseus does end up saving Andromeda, and they get married. The more you look at this painting, the more you realise that Titian has very subtly and very cleverly hinted at Perseus and Andromeda's happy union.
Notice how the placement of their limbs, their open mouths, and the forms of their swirling draperies echo one another.
Now, in the Metamorphoses, Ovid writes how, during this epic brawl, blood from Medusa's severed head, carried by Perseus, falls upon some rocks and turns them to coral.
Now, if you look at Andromeda's feet, you'll notice some coral and specks of blood. By including this minute detail and positioning Perseus' presence right by the captive princess's feet, Titian not only hints at the ending of the story, which would have delighted those who knew it, but also brings the two figures closer together.
Number 2, Titus, the Artist's Son, by Rembrandt.
Rembrandt painted this in 1657. It is a portrait of his only surviving son, Titus, when he was about 16 years old. Titus emerges from a dark, obscure background. A luscious red beret sits upon his voluminous curls that glisten alongside his gold earring and chain.
Rembrandt is known for his masterful use of light and shadow, and for his portraits that are imbued with emotional depth and introspection. In 1656, 1 year before this painting's creation, the Dutch artist went bankrupt. The weight of this financial burden and this newfound responsibility could be the reason for Titus's rather serious demeanour. Titus played a crucial role in managing the family's art business, which allowed Rembrandt to continue painting.
The wonderful thing about Rembrandt's work is that from up close, you get a great sense of his painterly technique. You can see blots of paint, you can see his use of impasto, and you can see evidence of his layering. Yet, from afar, all that vanishes, and what you are left with is an ethereal glimpse of a person. This portrait feels immediate. It feels alive. Rembrandt had this uncanny ability to capture and evoke a sitter's presence. He was a master at subtlety and restraint.
In fact, I think the reason why this painting and many others by him are so successful is because he knew exactly when to stop painting.
Look at the bridge of Titus's nose, for example. To illuminate it and bring it to the fore, Rembrandt has used 2 solitary strokes of white paint. Nothing more. The resulting sense of volume and depth is extraordinary. It's almost as if you can feel Titus's breathing. And not only do you feel him looking at you, but also beyond you. At the Wallace collection, the painting hangs opposite a self-portrait of the artist himself. This eternal exchange between father and son heightens the tenderness and vulnerability present in both paintings and the apparent bond between them.
I think Rembrandt would have loved this placement. Number 3, The Swing by Jean-Honoré Fragonard.
The Swing may be one of the most recognizable images from the history of Western art. It's a relatively small painting, but gosh, it really does take your breath away. We see a woman in a ruffled pink dress depicted mid-swing. In the bottom left corner of the painting, a young dandy falls into the bushes. His cheeks are flush with delight at being granted a privileged view up the woman's skirt. His left palm is wide with excitement, and his right hand holds his hat that he extends towards her in appreciation. The woman is being propelled by an elderly gentleman, perhaps her husband, who we see handling the ropes to the right. He gazes at the woman with a wide smile, seemingly oblivious to the flirtatious exchange taking place before him. The momentum of the swing has caused the woman's pink slipper to fly off, perhaps alluding to her lost innocence. This soaring slipper might be my favorite detail of the painting. Forever suspended, it encapsulates the feeling of heightened elation brought about by infatuation. It's almost as if the entire painting is holding its breath, and we are left waiting anxiously for the inevitable fall. Even the foliage seems alight with excitement. Aspects of the painting seem to sparkle with luminosity, particularly under the museum's warm lighting, and this intensifies a sense of flirtation and playfulness.
As we pull our eyes away from the two protagonists, we notice that the work is brimming with a number of details that add to the narrative at play, hinting at the fickleness of infatuation and the dangers of love and romance.
To the left, a crouching Cupid holds his hands to his lips in a gesture of caution. This is a painted rendering of Falconet's famous sculpture entitled Menacing Love, or L'amour menaçant. Beneath the woman, we see two sculpted cherubs, one of whom gazes upwards at the woman with apprehension. He directs our gaze towards the swing's ropes that have started to fray, highlighting the precariousness of the woman's predicament, and more broadly speaking, the precariousness of love. The second puto gazes downwards, directing our attention towards a fluffy white dog. While often used to symbolize fidelity, this dog's ferocious barking suggests that the opposite might be true in this case. In the distant background, the faint silhouette of a more intimate encounter becomes apparent, reinforcing this undercurrent of eroticism.
Fragonard has composed this painting in such a way that allows for these dark, suggestive and rather menacing undertones to surface gradually from the shadows. And this seductive layering makes for a tantalizingly enigmatic painting.
It is probably his best-known work. It's theatrical, it's playful, it's tongue-in-cheek, and it's deliciously lavish.
Number 4, Madame Perregaux by Élisabeth Louise Vigée.
Madame Perregaux is a wonderfully animated portrait by the French artist Élisabeth Louise Vigée. It was painted during the height of the French Revolution and depicts Adelaide de Brel, the wife of the Parisian banker and art collector Jean-François Perregaux. We see Madame Perregaux leaning over a balustrade and gazing to her right with the softest of smiles gracing her lips. Her hands rest upon a rich green curtain that she has just swept back, invoking a sense of play and reveal. The undulating folds of the curtain, caused by her dramatic sweep, echo the undulations of her glamorous Spanish dress, indicative of her high social status.
But despite the richness of her dress and the intense green of the curtain, her expression remains the sole focus of our attention.
We can't help but wonder what she may be looking at.
This is a very orchestrated portrait.
In choosing to depict Madame Perregaux in motion, Vigée Lebrun gives us a wonderful sense of her elegance, energy, and curiosity. Vigée Lebrun became one of the most sought-after portraitists in France. She was known for her ability to capture the likeness and personality of her subjects with grace, elegance, and vivacity. This is one of the last portraits she painted before her departure from France in 1789.
And number 5, Francesca da Rimini by Scheffer.
Scheffer's painting is probably my favorite thing to see here at the Wallace collection, not just because of its sheer majesty and beauty, but also because of its subject matter. The story of Francesca da Rimini and Paolo Malatesta is one of forbidden love, tragedy, and eternal damnation.
Their tale is recounted in Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, a 3-part narrative poem that recounts the poet's imagined journey through the 9 circles of hell.
As the story goes, Francesca is forced to marry the elderly and disfigured Giovanni for political reasons. Shortly afterwards, she meets Giovanni's younger brother Paolo, and they fall helplessly in love.
When Giovanni finds out, he murders them both. Since Francesca and Paolo were guided by love and passion as opposed to reason and rationality, they are forever banished to the second circle of hell reserved for lustful sinners, and are damned to spend eternity in the torrential grips of a relentless storm.
This painting depicts the moment in which Dante and his guide Virgil encounter the star-crossed pair. Scheffer portrays Francesca and Paolo locked in a tender embrace, their bodies suspended against a dark, hellish backdrop. Paolo shields his eyes from the storm, and his chest bears the wound of his murder. Francesca clings to him with her eyes closed, and we see tears cascading down her cheeks. Immersed in shadow, Dante and Virgil silently contemplate their tragic fate. Encircled by drapery, Francesca and Paolo remain as one, forever intertwined by their love, which remains as strong as the winds that govern them.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed exploring some of the highlights of the Wallace collection with me. Please consider that the paintings discussed in this video are but a mere glimpse at the many astounding treasures this museum houses. So the next time you're in London, do make sure to pass by. The museum is open every day from 10 till 5, and entry to the permanent collection is completely free. If you enjoyed learning about the museum's highlights, please give this video a like, leave a comment, and send it to someone you'd like to visit the collection with. I'm always open to answering questions, so pop them in the comment section down below. And finally, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel for even more fresh, fast, and accessible art historical content. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao!